The best kayak life vest is one that you wear every time that you're in your kayak. It needs to be comfortable, have large enough armholes so that you can easily rotate your arms while paddling without having it chafe you or bother you in any way. You also want it to be cut short enough so that when you're seated in your boat, it doesn't ride up on you and get in the way. A nice life vest will usually have reflective tape, which is especially important after sunset or if you're paddling offshore. It's nice to have pockets on the life vest so that you can carry items like a handheld compass, signaling devices, lip balm, or your car keys. It's also useful to have lash tabs or places that you can clip knives, safety whistles, strobe lights, and other items that might come in handy for signaling and other safety uses.
A spray skirt is a piece of gear that's worn around the waist of the paddler. It attaches around the cockpit coaming of the boat. Essentially, it's designed to keep water out of the boat. It comes in two basic styles. One is a coated nylon. It generally has suspenders to hold it up. This is normally used by people with wreck boats or touring boats, which is a close to shore application. It doesn't attach as tightly to the boat. Something to look for if you buy a coated fabric is the tape here, the seam tape. This makes the seams waterproof. The other type is a neoprene. Neoprene is tighter, it's warmer. If you're out in cooler weather, this is the way to go. It'll keep water out of the boat. If you're in big waves and big seas, it's more of an offshore application or a sea kayak application. A bilge pump is a piece of equipment that's used to get the water out of the boat once you've done a wet exit and gotten back into the boat, either with a paddle float or a paddling partner. The bilge pump pushes water out of the boat on the upstroke and sucks water in on the downstroke. When you're not using them, they're generally either kept beside the seat, somewhere under the deck, or a lot of people will stick it under the deck bungees so that it's close at hand. Generally, if the bilge pump is of high visibility color, and it should have a flotation collar on it so that it will float if you lose it over the side. A paddle float essentially is an inflatable envelope that you put on one paddle blade when you're in the water after a wet exit. You just twist the valve, blow up one side, close the valve, then do the other side. Once a paddle float's inflated, then run the strap around. This particular type has a Fastex buckle that closes around the paddle shaft to ensure that the paddle float does not come off the paddle. At this point, you continue with your paddle float re-entry. The paddle float, like the bilge pump, can be stowed anywhere on the boat that you can get at it when you're in the water. A lot of times it's stuck in next to the seat. A lot of times you'll see it, again, under the deck bungees, just like the bilge pump. It can be folded up into a small package and put under the bungees out of the way. Many times you'll have a compass mounted on the deck of your kayak. If you're offshore, if you're worried about fog or darkness, a compass can do a very good job of telling you what direction you're pointed. I keep a handheld compass in the PFD pocket. That allows me to check that something I may have put in a hatch hasn't skewed the compass off, so I can check the deck compass with my handheld compass and make sure they're both telling me the same reading. That way I have all the confidence in the world in my deck compass. Okay, the nautical chart is kept on the foredeck of the boat inside what's called a chart case or a chart protector. This is a bird's eye view of the surrounding area or the area that you're paddling in. In conjunction with the deck mounted compass, a compass rose that's on the chart will give you a very simple means of determining your direction or a direction from point A to point B. If we're out for a paddle, whether it's for a couple hours or a day or longer, if we're in a body of water much bigger than half a mile across, we're always going to make sure we have a few extra pieces of equipment. One of those is a spare paddle lashed onto the back deck. A primary paddle can either break or be lost or left on the beach after a lunch break. We'll also have a first aid kit for blisters or sprains or maybe the occasional cut from a barnacle. We'll also have a boat first aid kit. This is a spare parts container. This has got extra nuts and bolts and parts and pieces, pliers, screwdrivers. I can make minor repairs to my boat with what's here. I've got duct tape wrapped around the container. In case I have little holes or punctures in the boat, I can wrap it with duct tape. We also have a dry bag full of spare clothes. If somebody falls in the water or it gets cold, just on a normal day of paddling, needs extra clothing, we have it available. Another very handy piece of equipment that a sea kayaker or an offshore kayaker might want to have is a tow line. This particular type is worn on a belt around the waist. It opens very quickly. It has a carabiner that I can just hook onto the bow of a person's boat, either the carry handle or the perimeter line. If somebody needs a tow, it may be just a little help getting to shore, it may be just a little help against the tide, or maybe somebody's tired or injured. Very handy piece of equipment.